justify the cell widths. So this, I'm going to just call it mutual funds. I'll call that sheet mutual funds. And I'm going to also create a new sheet. And this new sheet I'll call benchmarks. All right? Now, we'll go back over to Word, and I'll go down. Let's see. There we go. So here are our benchmarks. I'll copy the whole table. So just copy. And go back over to Excel, paste. So here are our benchmarks. Now I'm going to use VLOOKUP. I'm going to use the VLOOKUP concept and feature of Excel. You may have used this in ITN 215, right? You used VLOOKUP a bit? All right. I know that it's not something you probably use every day, so let's do a quick review of how VLOOKUP works. And why are we using VLOOKUP? Well, I want Excel for every single one of those hundreds and hundreds of funds that I have, row by row by row, to identify if the fund uses the Russell 2000 total return index stated in US dollars. So the Russell 2000 index, I want Excel to look at this column and say, oh, there's the Russell 2000. And I'm going to march over to the second column in that same row, which is matching my mutual fund row, and I'm going to just pluck that index return, that benchmark return out from that cell. That's what I'm going to do. And so here's how the VLOOKUP function is going to look. Here's the anatomy of the VLOOKUP function. We start out with just saying VLOOKUP, and I want to use to identify a key within my mutual funds spreadsheet I want to identify the key that is going to match with the first column of my matching spreadsheet. So these prospectus benchmarks, these are also the constituents of that first column over in my benchmark spreadsheet. So I'm going to have this information as my first item. So VLOOKUP C2, which is that cell right there, C2, that's going to be the first argument in the VLOOKUP function. And then I'm going to tell Excel, here's where I want you to look. I want you to look over here in this entire block of data. So from A2, which is this one, all the way through B10. So Excel, go over to benchmarks. And I think I need an exclamation point. And then A2 through C10. A2 colon C10. And by the way, these need to be absolute. I don't have enough space on this board to put in the dollar signs, but it's actually got to look like $A, $2, colon, $C, $10. I had asked before they made the rooms and put in the technology in this building, for them to put the overhead stuff up top and the boards down here so we could still write while this is showing. But you can see how much influence I had. So that we need to do that. Now the next thing we need to do, so we have two arguments so far. There's another comma here between the second and third arguments. The third argument is, well, which column in that new matching spreadsheet should we be accessing? Well, it's going to be column 2. Once a match occurs, well, that's in column 1, then you march over here to column 2. So that's the next thing we need, is to put a 2 to indicate which column. Finally, you know what will happen? What if the benchmark is for a fund is the Russell 2000 index, and for some reason I don't have the Russell 2000 listed here? You know what Excel is going to do? It's going to say, Russell, 1000. Good enough. Let's use that. That's what the default is. The default is good enough match. Let's use it. And the default is true. What we want is to put the word, simply this word, unadorned, the word false, telling Excel, if my exact match is not found, don't give me any nonsense about an approximate match. Unless it's exact, don't give me a proper result. Okay? In other words, don't give me an error message. Simply give me an error message if it's not an exact match. So there's where we close it up. There are those 4 elements in the VLOOKUP function. The cell that you want to match with whatever the matching block is in the other spreadsheet. How many cells from the very start in that other spreadsheet should we move from left to right in order to pluck out a value? And then, do you want an exact match or do you want an approximate match? And false gives you an exact match. So let's go ahead and put that information in over here. Control page down. And we're going to do this here in cell E. And let's see if I can just expand that a bit. Okay. So VLOOKUP, parentheses, and I'm trying to match C2 with, now I'm going to go over to the other spreadsheet, and I'm going to highlight the whole thing, okay? Starting with the column that I want to match with the C column in the other sheet. By the way, if for some reason we had a different column A, say just the word Russell, because Russell is a company, and we had maybe the type of index it is, value, growth, whatever, and this is the thing we want to match right here, we always have to make our matching column the leftmost column in the block of text. In other words, if there are 2 other columns before this one, we would need to have our cell address be C2 through D10, not A2 through B10. You follow what I'm saying? The matching column always has to be leftmost. So I'll hit F4 to make that an absolute cell reference, okay? And by the way, I can see now that I messed up. I didn't need quotes here, just the exclamation point there. You need quotes for a different context. Then I'll say comma 2, because I wanted Excel to pluck out a value from the second field here, the second column, and then false. And then I'll close up this and see what happens. 4.36, let's see if that worked. Intermediate term bond, Barclays US Ag, 4.36. Barclays US Ag, yeah, 4.36, that worked, that's good. So now let's go back and I'll just copy this all the way down. Enter. All right, we have some NAs here. Why? Well, it turns out that for the Ageas Value Fund, Small Cap Value Fund, the Russell 2000 Value Index is its benchmark. But I don't have the Russell 2000 Value Index in that other sheet. So if we had said true or we had left it blank instead of putting false as our argument here, probably Excel would have just given us a number here. but it wouldn't have told us that it used an approximate match. It would just give us the number. All right, okay, so now what do we want to do with these numbers? With these numbers, these are benchmark adjusted returns, BARs. So these tell us the extent to which, over a 10-year period, these respective funds beat or trailed their benchmarks. Next thing I need to know is performance category. So in other words, did this fund underperform or outperform? The way I define underperformance is if this benchmark adjusted return here is less than 0, then I want Excel to actually return this word, underperform. Else, I want Excel to return the word outperform. Close up the parentheses, enter. And that is that. So let's reach down, see if there are any examples of underperform. Really, everybody outperformed. See if I did anything wrong here. C2 with this benchmark. And oh, what did I do wrong? All I did actually was small thing. All I did was ported over to here the benchmark's return. I need to take that number and subtract it from the fund's return, right? Fund return minus the benchmark return. Oops, I was so fixated on VLOOKUP, I forgot what I was using VLOOKUP for. So I'm going to I'm going to edit this cell, and where it just starts with VLOOKUP, I'm going to say, all right, Excel, I actually want to take that number and subtract whatever this VLOOKUP thing is, enter. And then I'll copy all the way down. Enter. All right, so that looks a little more realistic. We have a mix of underperforms and outperforms. If you wish, you can just have benchmark return in a column that you port over to this sheet, and then you can make a completely different column where you have column D minus column E gives you column F, which is the BAR. That's fine too.
Would you take off if I did, instead of the underperform, outperform, if I did like 0 and 1? For like 1 is for outperform and 0 is for not outperform? Make it binary?
It is binary.
Well, yeah, but like if I did 1s and 0s. Okay.
Can you change it?
That's
I mean, it's not just do this. I think because I simply want you to go through the very extremely minor step of returning a set of characters instead of a number. That's literally why I'm being, picky about it. Is that I want you to have that bit of experience. All right, so now we have this. All right, where do we go? Are we done? No, not quite. We just have one more set of steps. What I want to know is, for each of these Morningstar categories, did I ask you about category? Let me just double check our thing here. Control, there we go. No, what I'm gonna have you do it right by benchmark. Create a pivot table proportion of each Morningstar category. Yeah, strictly speaking, I have benchmark there instead of category. But let's just use benchmarks. That's fine. Okay. So I'm going to highlight. What I want to do is make a pivot table. And so I'm going to highlight this relevant information, and then you go to data, let's see, it's data, P for pivot table, enter, and then hit enter a couple of times, and you get this. So here's where the pivot table is going to show up. And what I want to have is the benchmark prospectus as our row headings. So I want Russell 1000, Russell 2000, et cetera, as our row headings. And I want performance category, the thing that Evan and I were just talking about, outperform, underperform. I want that to be my column headings. And then I'm going to separately drag performance category down here into the guts of the table. So, so it will show me the count of underperform and outperform for each category. So here's primary prospectus benchmark. Here I go down to rows. Okay, it populated the rows. Nice. Now I use performance category, and I've dragged this down here to columns. So notice I have these columns, okay? And in fact, I see I have NA. I'm going to just go ahead and get rid of that. I'll unclick NA just so I have outperform and underperform only. And then I'm going to once again take performance category and drag it down here to summation values, which I'm just referring to as the guts of the table. And here are our counts in each performance category. So I see that, for example, in the Russell 1000 growth realm, 10 of those funds outperformed, 19 underperformed. So that's about 1/3, 2/3. You know, this is inconvenient to read. I really want these as percents. I would like to know that 5 and 10 is 33%, 67% out of a total of 100%. So I'm going to ask Excel to express them in exactly that way. All numbers need to be a fraction of the row total. So here's how we do it. We go into the table and just click one time, normally left click. Now I'm going to right click. And I'll come down here to Value Field Settings. So again, I just clicked within the table and then I right clicked. And then I went to Value Field Settings. So I'll click on that. And what this allows me to do is ask Excel for any of these statistics, a sum, count, average, mean, min, max, whatever, okay? But I want to keep count here, but I'm going to go to this other tab that's kind of hidden back here, Show Values As. And I want to show values as, see I'm going to a drop down here, a percentage of the row total. There it is, percentage of the row total. So it's going to give me what I want. I'll go ahead and click OK. There it is. Each value, there are my 33 1/3, 66 2/3, and so on. Everything's a percent of the row total. I'm not a huge fan of 2 decimal places in this context, so I'm going to just go back to Value Field Settings and ask for the number format to be dialed back to 0 decimals. So it looks a little bit cleaner like that. But this is it. We have our proportion of all funds in each style that outperformed their benchmarks and underperformed their benchmarks in a pivot table. Okay? And so I'd like you to do this and then comment.